Joshua chapter 2 is the wonderful story of Rahab and the spies. Joshua had a strategy. He wanted to divide the land of Canaan into two prior to conquering it. And so Jericho stood like a fist in the middle, a fortified city. And once he could take that city, he could deal at his leisure almost with the north and with the south. So Jericho was key. So he sends his spies in to gauge what kind of mood the people are in, whether they're ready for war or not. So the two spies came in, it says in verse 1, they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. And obviously a brothel would be a perfect place to gauge the mood of the common people, wouldn't it? And they meet Rahab. So this is Rahab's story, and it's a wonderful story of an encounter between the people of faith, so to speak, and the people of the town, the people who are the pagan people. And the transformation that God makes upon Rahab is the significant thread of the whole story here. Rahab is introduced as somebody in a bad position. She's a prostitute. She's in the town that's slated for destruction. God had said very clearly to Moses and to Joshua that the cities that are given over to idolatry have to be swept to one side. Before you can build something, you have to demolish other things. And some things can't be reused. And he's saying, this cannot be reused. This has to go. So in the middle of this demolition process that's about to begin, they meet Rahab. She's in a bad position. She's in a bad town. And she's morally off the chart. and yet, and this is the wonder of grace, and yet she is ready to change. She's alert for change. So she gives them the crucial information that the people's hearts are melting for fear because of the coming of the people of Israel. That's a very important piece of information. But more than that, she lines herself up with them. She is in a position, but she's ready to change from that position. Maybe that speaks to you, because I certainly know that I was in a mess when God called to me. In fact, the choice comes to so many people. Jesus called lots of people. Some of them did respond to him, but some of them didn't. Do you remember the rich young ruler who went away sorrowful because he had many possessions? And Jesus was sad because he had received the moment of choice and had chosen against it, had chosen no. You see, Rahab came to the moment and said yes. And there's a world of difference. So ultimately, the point about you and me and Rahab is not where you've been, but what you say. Not what's the story of your life, sad though it might be, or low or sinful or mean-spirited, anything. No matter what your past is, what are you going to do now when God speaks to you? And so this is transformation in action. Rahab received the spies and she entered into what they were doing. She started to line herself up with the people of Israel, with the people of Israel, knowing that she was opening herself up to danger. The king comes, he sends messengers. Did messengers come here from Israel? No, there's nobody here. You know, it starts to become like a spy story. But she's listened to them and she's responded to something inside her, and God is responding to her response. Isn't that exciting? She responds in faith. She hears the voice. She says yes, and she heeds it. She starts to make plans for what will happen when Israel comes into her city. Can I be part of the salvation? Can I get out of this situation that I'm stuck in? And she starts to respond in other ways as well. She hides the spies. She gives misinformation to the king. She gets stuck into what God's doing, and she starts to reach out to those within her own circle of influence, her family. She starts to make plans for her family's salvation as well. Do you see what it's such a picture of grace, isn't it? That God speaks to you and then he says, what are you going to do about it? What difference does it make to your family, to your way of life? How are you going to respond to the voice of God in your life? So the consequences of her moment of faith are extraordinary. She's saved. You know the story. It comes later on. She hangs a thread out of the window, a scarlet thread. And when the Israelite army comes in over the walls that have fallen flat, she is rescued. But she becomes part of the covenant story. She becomes mentioned in the book of Ruth, and later on in the story of the heroes of faith in Hebrews 11, as part of the genealogy of Jesus. So she has become part of the covenant story of the people of God. Because God never looks to where you've been, he looks to where you could go. And in the middle between that past, which is done, and the future, which is possible, is you. Right now, and your moment of choice, your moment of saying, I want to go with the people of God. I want to stake my claim on the promises of God. So she becomes part of a big story that's bigger than her. And that's what you did. If you came to Christ, that's what you did. It's not all about you. You are not centre stage in this story. This is the story of faith. This is the story of the thread, the scarlet thread, the blood of Christ running right through the scriptures. The Lamb slain before the foundation of the world. Those who overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony from beginning to end. And you stand in the middle of a long line of people who have made covenant with God. Isn't that wonderful? And Rahab is a picture of that. God uses individuals, but it's his story, not your story. You're part of his story. And you're blessed to bless. You're not blessed just to give you a fire insurance or something so that you go to heaven when you die. You are blessed so that your family can be blessed, so that your community can be transformed through your decision. That's the blessings of transformation, isn't it? So we just need to make sure of that one. Have you found that freedom? Have you found that fame that comes with acknowledging and putting your hand into the hand of the Lord of the covenant? Have you found that new family? You are destined to be part of the covenant family of the living God, but it hinges upon your choice. May God bless you today.